Hey, it's Ben Solomon, and welcome to this episode of the Techno Leadership Show. In this episode, we are going to be talking about the MBTI system and going a little bit deeper, and I'll be showing you my result, how I've been able to look at the strengths and weaknesses from the results, and then put in place strategies to mitigate weaknesses and how I've been able to leverage my strengths in my career and in my life so far. So, going into this, as I've said previously, 16 personalities is my favorite MBTI based test at the moment. I've used it for many years. I've done the test multiple times to make sure that it's accurate, because MBTI of all the ones has a slightly high tendency to change based on where you're at and how your development's at as well. But for me, consistently, at least for the last almost a decade, it has held quite stable. Maybe the percentage points might go up and down a little bit, but other than that, the end result has always been the same. But as you can see, if you go to the website and go to the personality types and click on that, it takes you down to this page, a lovely landing page with dividing it into four categories: the analysts, as you can see, analyst, diplomat, sentence, explorer. So the people who have INT or ENT as their first three letters go into these analyst categories, and then diplomats are the ones who go into the INF and ENF categories, and the sentinels is to ISJ and ESJs, whereas the explorers are ISPs and ESPs. So yeah, that's pretty much how they've broken this into four categories, and then going in depth with them. So each of them again has their own strengths, weaknesses, and looking at someone like, in my case, being an INTP, I'll show you my actual result here. That's the result spectrum, and going inside, logging in, it says type assertive logician and gives you the thing here, and this gives you a really good idea of what your strengths are, what potential weaknesses are. So if you go down here, so each of these items has a little button you can click and gives you an idea of what it is. So introverted individual prefer solitary activities, exhausted by social interaction, quite sensitive to sound, and all that sort of thing. So when you see that, you can understand, yes, as an introvert, you need to, preserve yourself. It doesn't mean you can't have social interaction. It means you need to probably have it in small sprints and small, shorter time periods. So what you would do in that sort of scenario is make sure that the quality of your interaction in those short bursts is really high, so that you can build good relationships with people. And if you look at energy here, intuitive individuals are very imaginative, open-minded, and curious. Now, to some people that might be like, oh yeah, that's fantastic, it's such a great thing to have. But on the other side, when you're that intuitive and imaginative and open-minded, you have a tendency to prefer novelty over stability. And what happens in this scenario is you have a tendency to want to always have change. And change for the sake of change can sometimes be counterproductive. So in your career or in your life, you want to make sure, if you are highly intuitive, make sure that you create opportunities to create novelty even in the current circumstances, which means you might test new things in your environment. You might have like a production environment and a testing environment, or have a testing setup at home where you can test new ideas that you have, so that you're not bringing down the main production environment, yet at the same time you're getting novelty. And if you're in a leadership position and you have people in your staff who are more the stability style people, well, let them do the change management side of things, whereas you do more the strategic overall management of the services and long term value producing activities. So you can look at long term plans, you can bring in novelty in that factor rather than trying to make changes unnecessarily in stable systems that could lead to issues. Similarly, in engineering environments and in your life, like stability and novelty, you could, you know, experiment with some sport, you could experiment with doing other hobbies and use that as your novelty, whereas stability you might have in relationships, in certain things that you might do to for your health, like going to the gym. You might do the same routine almost every time you go to the gym, but again, over there, you can use novelty to break things up so that you enjoy that as well. So, for example, personally in my life, what I do have a tendency to do, for example, in the health and fitness side of my life, I have a tendency to test different dietary systems, test different exercise routines. I even went and did a personal trainer course so that I understood the, fundamentals and the core of exercise physiology and things like that, so that I can set up my own exercise routines based on results that I want. And because I'm fairly consistently experimenting with it, I haven't gotten the stability in results that I would like. I have in the past gotten a stable result, but then my experimenting side of me wanted to keep testing things, and yeah, so I enjoy that side of things. That I enjoy the exercising, but I also enjoy the novelty of testing different things, which keeps me going. So which means I don't have to have novelty on a day-to-day basis at work. So that's the kind of trade-off that you find based on your where your energy goes, how you think, and what your wants and needs are based on how you're acquainted. Nature, well, it says thinking's highest and feeling lower. And if I was working just with technology, that's fantastic because you can be very objective, very factual, very rational and logical in dealing with systems. But when I went over to a leadership position and I knew that feeling is lower, which means I'm not, I prioritize logic over emotion, I had to consciously step back and go, look, I'm dealing with people and I need to be aware of their needs, their wants, as well as their best value creation, and then utilizing the coach leader style leadership, I was able to help cohesively work as a team, and we all produce value in our own unique ways. And I was able to delegate without, being too overcautious about things. I allowed my team members to do what they do best and achieve results in the way they best thought was the way to do it, as long as frameworks and guidelines were followed. And also meant that when I could consciously think about them and the whole organization as such, I could bring in empathy. Again, empathy is a skill that you can learn, and support them, unblock their path, help them achieve great results, which meant they enjoyed doing the work, enjoyed being part of the team, and enjoyed working for that bigger purpose that we were working towards. And then judging versus prospecting. Again, judging people are very strong in making decisions and they'll make a decision and stick to it, whereas prospecting people tend to be flexible, relaxed, and open-minded, always looking for opportunities. This is great for someone in a strategic role because you're always looking at the horizon, looking at how can you position your business or your team or your department for the long term. So that served me well in leadership positions. And knowing that that was the case, I knew I had to work on getting the right amount of data, making the best possible decision, and working on probabilities. One of the things that people who are known as futurists do is work on probabilities. For many years, I thought they predicted a particular future and that's it. But futurists don't do that. And knowing what I know now, the prospecting side of us is what gives us that futurist style tendency, and which means I have the capacity to look at everything that's trending, everything that's going on in culture, in workplace, and all that sort of thing, and come up with certain probabilities. And in a lot of cases, the probabilities have been pretty accurate, which is good. Is it always going to be 100%? No, it's not. Never. That's the whole point of this. You come up with probabilities, not exactitudes. But if you have members in your team who are strong in judging, utilize their strengths to help you make that decision based on the probabilities that you come up with, so that you can target the best probabilities for the strengths and weaknesses that your team has, for the long-term outcome of your organization, and if you're using it for your life, long-term objectives of your life. And assertive and turbulent, again, having that assertiveness means you know what your strengths are and you work from there. You're self-assured and mostly resistant to stress. But obviously there is a case of where your work environment could potentially put you in stress, and there is also the likelihood that if you're not working from your strengths, you could put yourself under psychological stress as well. So those are things to think about, and based on your profile, you'll be able to look at these things and then look at what potential downsides are there to each of those things. And then based on the downsides for your side, self, put in place, learn skills, put in place mitigating strategies to ensure that you don't fall in those blind spots, and utilize your strengths, because your strengths are going to give you the highest potential leverage. So use them to get the most out of your career and your life. So hopefully you found this helpful, and you can do something similar with analyze your own strengths and weaknesses using the MBTI and the 16 personalities profile, and get the most out of your strengths and your weaknesses. If you'd like to learn more about moving up in your career as a technology professional and or as a technology manager and leader, please do subscribe to this channel, and I look forward to seeing you in a future episode. Thank you and have a great day.